All right, so the next thing I want to talk about is skin cancer. One, because it's important to know about for yourself and for being a health professional, but also it reinforces some of this anatomy with the skin. So there's three main types of skin cancer. There's what we call basal cell carcinoma, and that's this guy. There's squamous cell carcinoma, which is this guy, and then there's melanoma, which is this guy here. And the main takeaway points I want you guys to take from this are: one, where in the skin do each of these cancers occur? Two, what types of things cause skin cancer? And three, out of these three, which is by far the most dangerous and deadly? Okay, so let's assess, first of all, where this skin cancer is gonna occur. So first of all, this is all, what is this? This is all epidermis. And then what's this thing right there? That's a dermal papilla. Okay, so the skin cancer that we're talking about is going to affect cells up here in the epidermis. So first of all, basal cell carcinoma. What cells are going to be affected with basal cell carcinoma? Well, this is you guys don't have to know this necessarily, or we're not going to memorize it, but the epidermis is divided into different layers, or what we call different stratums. And this very deepest layer that is against the dermis there is called the stratum basale. These are all stratum basale cells there. And what do you know about these cells down there? A lot of stem cells. These are the cells that are proliferating and pushing the cells upward. Okay, but because they divide so quickly, there's a lot of chance for mutation. There's a lot of chance for genetic error. And so basal cell carcinoma affects these cells down here, these keratinocytes in the basal layer. What about squamous cell carcinoma? Where would we find those? How about up in these squamous shaped cells, up here in the most superficial part of the epidermis? Again, these keratinocytes. And three, what about melanoma? Well, as you can guess, melanoma is cancer of these melanocytes right there. What type of things cause skin cancer? Okay, we can look at that. And which one of these three is by far the most dangerous and deadly, and why? Okay, so a lot of these details here you may not necessarily need to know, but basal cell carcinoma, this is the most frequently occurring form of skin cancer. Like I said, they arise in the skin's basal cells. They often look like open sores, red patches, pink growths, these shiny bumps there. And these are usually caused by a combination of cumulative and intense UV exposure. But the good news with basal cell carcinoma is that they almost never spread or metastasize beyond the original site. So only in rare cases does it spread and can become life-threatening. Then we have our squamous cell carcinoma, which affects these squamous cells up there. This is the second most common form of skin cancer. And like I said, it's uncontrolled growth of these squamous cells. And these can look like scaly red patches, open sores, and whatnot. And again, this is caused by cumulative UV exposure over the course of a lifetime. If they're allowed to grow, they can become deadly. So it's something that you want to get taken care of. But by far the most dangerous and deadly is melanoma, which is cancer of the melanocytes. Why is it so deadly? One, it's highly metastatic, which means parts of it break off, go into the blood or lymphatic system, and travel to other areas of the body. It's also resistant to chemotherapy. Okay, so it's hard to control once it's metastasized. And this is again caused by intense and occasional UV exposure. And there's also a genetic predisposition to it. Now, if you recognize it early and treat it early, it's almost always curable. The problem is if you don't get it to it. And you have to do thorough skin examinations because, you can have a melanoma in the armpit. You can have one in the anogenital region, and that can, you need to be able to detect that. And so these are the A, B, C, D, E's of detecting melanoma. These are non-melanoma, and this is melanoma down here. And the first two characteristics are asymmetry. One side is unlike the other, and also the borders are uneven. And these are kind of similar to me, but basically you can see here with melanoma, the borders are uneven. Well, in this case, one side, this side, isn't like the other side, and also the borders are uneven. C, color, multiple colors. If you see a couple colors in a mole, then that's something you need to be concerned about. Melanoma is larger than a quarter of an inch, and also they're evolving. They're changing in size, changing in shape, changing in color. So if you see a suspicious mole, then one, it'd be helped to measure the size of it to see if it grows. But two, look at it for what color it is, what it looks like. Because if it changes, if it evolves, then there's a good chance that can be melanoma. Okay, then let's get into to burns. What a burn is, it's tissue damage inflicted by intense heat, electricity, radiation, or certain chemicals. And the net result of all of this is that it denatures cell proteins and kills the cells in the affected area. So this is there's first, second, and third degree burns. This is a first degree burn here. And in first degree burns, only the epidermis is damaged. So here's the epidermis, here's the underlying dermis, and in a first degree burn, only this epidermis is damaged. And it can lead to redness, swelling, but it usually heals in 2 to 3 days without special attention. So a sunburn is a first degree burn usually. Second degree burns injure the epidermis and also the upper region of the dermis. And one, you get redness and swelling and all that stuff with first degree burns, but you can also get blisters that appear. This is this intense UV exposure that can lead to some skin cancers. But and this can take 3 to 4 weeks to heal, but it should be able to heal. And I'll tell you what, when I moved to North Carolina for grad school, I definitely got some second degree burns with all that heat and kind of my naivety with regards to the sun at the time. Now, what's really damaging, what's really traumatic and really life-threatening are third degree burns. These are full thickness burns. The entire epidermis, the entire dermis, and even down into that subcutaneous layer there is all damaged. And so at this point, to fix this situation, you can get there's stem cells along the end there, and you can get a little regeneration of cells. But to fix this, you need a skin graft. Okay, and there's issues associated with that skin graft. Now, if somebody comes in with a third degree burn, what's your number one priority? What's your number one concern, I should say? Because this person is in a life-threatening situation. Well, the primary threat to life is dehydration and electrolyte balance, because all of this areolar tissue, all this connective tissue that's underneath there that holds a lot of water, holds a lot of nutrients and ions, has basically been taken out. It's been burned. It's been denatured. And so that's no longer there. You lose a lot of water and a lot of electrolytes. And this can read not only cellular failure, but renal failure. And renal failure is followed by circulatory shock, reduced cardiac output, and that's a life-threatening situation. And so you need to hydrate. You need to have a lot of hydration going on, and also graft the skin to try to get that hydration back there. Now, after that initial crisis has passed, what you also need to be concerned about, and this might have been the first thing you guys said, is infection, sepsis. Obviously now this is all exposed, and you don't have that protective skin there. And so the chances of bacteria and pathogens getting in the blood supply is much greater at this point. And so you need to deal with that infection. Okay, and then lastly, this diagram here is very similar to the integumentary model we have in the lab, and so I want you to use this as kind of a guide to that model. You can identify the different layers, which you'll need to do on the lab exam, and then you have all these things in there. You have your hair follicles, you have your eccrine glands, your sebaceous oil glands, your dermal papilla, all sorts of stuff in there that you guys need to recognize and know for the lab exam. And then this is a continuation of that. These are little erector pili muscles. Normally your hairs stand at an angle there, but when these erector pili muscles, which I believe are smooth muscle, smooth muscle, when they contract, they stand that hair on end. And that doesn't have much of an effect or use for us now. It causes these goosebumps here. But for other animals, when you raise that skin, it creates an insulating layer that traps heat in there and is very helpful for trapping heat. And it can also make animals appear larger as well. Bueno.